A marriage shatters, a bank account bleeds, and before anybody can catch their breath, the groom's already posting honeymoon photos from halfway across the globe. The reality TV crowd thought they'd seen every kind of breakup, but nothing prepared viewers for the day Elizabeth dragged Andrei to court for $165,000. Not even a week after the ink dried on their divorce, the man who once said he'd go to war for love had already found himself a new wife, far from Tampa, even farther from compromise. Hearts break in private, but this one unfolds on Instagram, in court filings, and inside every living room that ever watched 90 Day Fiancé and thought, no way, our family drama isn't that bad. The fallout hits everywhere. Things get messier by the hour. One moment the headlines scream about infidelity. The next it's a money trail snaking through 8 years of fights, ultimatums, and all those dinners where nobody could look Andrei straight in the eye. Fans are asking, did Elizabeth spot this coming, or did it all explode in her hands? People remember the pretty pieces. A girl from Florida who loved her family more than air, a tough guy from Moldova who sounded like trouble but talked his way into her life late at night, one text at a time. Who could have guessed one visa would turn into a courtroom saga dragging lawyers, parents, and even their little girl into the blast zone? Nobody's memory is that short. Elizabeth was the type who couldn't imagine a home without the noise of siblings and parents crowded around a holiday table, so when she met Andrei on that dating app, it felt risky but electric. He was raw ambition and sharp lines, carved out of years as a police officer back home, and suddenly, every FaceTime call pinballed between real affection and real stakes. Andrei couldn't believe his luck landing an American life. Elizabeth was the girl who brought all the warmth and all the expectation you could pack into a single suitcase. When she flew half the world to meet him, everyone thought it was wild. When she came home convinced this was her fate, her family braced themselves. The visa countdown began, the wedding came next, and those early days shone with the fuzzy optimism you only see before the cracks appear. But a story like this doesn't belong in fairy tales. It belongs right here where money, ego, and old wounds make simple choices feel impossible. As the Florida sun faded and workdays grew heavier, the same family that lifted Elizabeth up started pulling at the edges of her marriage. Andrei's head might have been in 2 countries, but his heart was never up for debate. He never stopped wanting her, not really, but he also never stopped wanting things his way. Meanwhile, Elizabeth kept spinning between a stubborn love for her man and a lifetime of proving herself to her family. Questions piled up, small and sharp, usually whispered behind closed doors. There was no way this pressure could hold forever. When the lawsuit dropped, it wasn't anger on Elizabeth's face. People said it looked more like heartbreak. Was this always waiting beneath the surface, buried under arguments about money nobody wanted to admit had even changed hands? Or was it his new marriage that made her realize he'd given up before she could even grieve the ending of what they built? Everyone watching could feel exactly how bad this felt to her, down to the last dollar claimed and the accusations that clung to every word. The stakes aren't abstract, not with families tangled together and a little daughter trying to make sense of why her parents suddenly become strangers. Fans kept digging through old episodes, rewatching the early kisses and the nervous smiles, the promises whispered at an altar in Florida, and every heartbreak stored for years. Was there ever a future where Elizabeth didn't have to pick a side? Or was it always going to come down to a moment when she had to choose? The man she married or the family she was born into? Elizabeth always wanted her life to feel safe, steady, familiar. Roots sunk deep in the Florida dirt, family dinners, the kind of tradition that makes it hard to imagine ever living anywhere else. When Andrei arrived, he didn't fit into those routines. He pushed at boundaries without even realizing, sure of his place even when nobody handed him a chair. At first, it was simple. 2 people in the same room, not speaking the same language, but holding on to each other through every culture clash. But every happy moment carried the weight of what they left behind. Andrei missed the smell of home, the jokes he could make only in Moldovan, and the family who expected to see him at the table, not on a grainy video call. Elizabeth knew her choice would hurt someone. If she followed her heart toward Andrei, she risked drifting from parents who held on tight. If she turned back to her family, she might lose the kind of love that had pulled her out of her comfort zone in the first place. There were always small fights, a little tension that crept in every time money or jobs or the future came up. Florida never stopped feeling like hers, but Moldova never fully belonged to either of them. His old friends, her old routines, old wounds, none of it got left behind at the airport. Every episode took viewers into the eye of their storm. Andrei's ambition, Elizabeth's struggle to keep the peace, the growing suspicion that eventually someone would have to give way. Even when they smiled for the cameras, you could see who was keeping score. Her dad made sure to pull Andrei aside, reminding him who paid the bills, who set the rules around the house. Andrei didn't like it. He had ideas about how things should run, stubborn, loud, and sometimes more about pride than progress. Elizabeth tried to smooth things over, lost in a maze between loyalty and survival. The family's whispers became sharper, the jokes a little too pointed, the holiday parties more like battlefields. Sometimes it was a question about his income. Sometimes it was about what kind of father he'd be. Every time, it left Elizabeth more alone. Tension built, day after day, until the smallest thing could knock the whole house down. One dinner, one argument, and there it was, her mother's ultimatum. The kind of threat that doesn't get walked back when the haze of anger fades. If you don't divorce him, you're not my daughter. The words hung in the air, changing everything. Her mother believed she was saving Elizabeth, protecting her from a man she would never trust. But the price was unmistakable. Now Elizabeth faced the unthinkable prospect of losing the family she relied on for everything, simply for holding on to the man she loved. Andrei heard it all, anger tightening his jaw, pride keeping him upright in a house where he never felt quite welcome. If Elizabeth thought love would be enough to carry her through, that hope was crumbling in real time. Friends turned cautious. Siblings closed ranks. Family traditions looked different now, colder. Every smile feeling forced, every invitation sounding more like a warning. Andrei wasn't backing down, not when his pride was at stake. Every time he pushed back, sometimes too hard, the wall between him and Elizabeth's family grew another layer thicker. She tried to bridge the gap, spinning in circles, until standing still seemed safer than choosing a side. Now, with the ultimatum spoken out loud, the fight wasn't just inside the house. It became the backstory of every argument, every late-night conversation, every choice about where to live, who to visit, what kind of life to build. The audience could see Elizabeth's heartbreak. They watched Andrei's isolation. And underneath it all, the question hung unanswered. After a threat like that, what move could Andrei possibly make next that would surprise even his harshest critics? The moment Elizabeth's lawsuit made headlines, the entire fanbase detonated. No one kept their opinions to themselves. Reddit threads raced from hot takes to full-blown conspiracy charts in the space of a morning. Instagram comments stacked up in a language all their own, with theories as wild as any late-season plot twist. Some fans lined up behind Elizabeth, ready to send her legal defense fund before knowing the facts. Others called Andrei misunderstood, a tough guy who got spun in the edit. Fandom loyalty flared hotter than anything Elizabeth and Andrei ever survived at a family barbecue. Everyone remembers the early seasons when people bickered over how Elizabeth's family treated Andrei, but now things were different. Lines were sharp. Was this about money or revenge? One scroll through social feeds, and you see every shade of anger, pity, and suspicion. Viewers sniffed out old footage, replaying every episode looking for the first signs of cracks, the early warnings nobody took seriously. Every on-camera eye roll, every off-the-cuff joke about finances, every long pause at dinner. The fam was writing the script in real time, but fans thought they could see further. As soon as news broke about Andrei's second marriage, things erupted again. Jealousy, betrayal, rebound, nobody held back. A wave of comments questioned how quick Andrei moved on, how his new Australian bride fit into a story millions thought they understood. Did he always have one eye on someone else? Or was Elizabeth's family drama the final straw that sent him running into new arms? Theories poured in faster than facts could keep up. People remembered the couple's bigger purchases, the tense conversations about business plans, that mysterious loan Elizabeth claimed Andrei never paid back. Suddenly, every dollar counted. Every financial move looked suspicious. The $145,000 became more than just a sum on a court document. Fans debated whether it was an old-fashioned grudge, a genuine debt, or a payback move for broken promises. Allegedly, friends said the money was for a business, not a gift. Others guessed Andrei always planned to pay, but things spun out of control when emotions flared. With every rumor, posts turned into courtroom exhibits. Both sides took hits from online detectives digging through everything publicly available, turning private wounds into public ammunition. Even longtime followers found themselves split. Some couldn't get past Elizabeth's pain, seeing her as a daughter cornered by impossible expectations. Some sided with Andrei, painting him as a man outnumbered by in-laws who never gave him a fair shot. The swirl of social drama dwarfed most of the old on-screen arguments. Every fan group, every private chat, every meme account weighed in, picking sides, guessing what went on in those unseen moments when the cameras blinked off. The show had always been a circus of culture clashes, money fights, and emotional stakes, but this was different. This wasn't just entertainment anymore, it bled into real life. Reputations strained under the pressure. Friends distanced themselves, and every tabloid headline threatened to rewrite the next chapter before the people involved could even catch up. And all along, under the hashtags, jokes, and fight threads, one question built up like a storm across every group and every friend circle. Was this the result of jealousy, fame pressure, or had something even darker been eating away at the marriage this whole time? Everything that used to get resolved in tense family meetings and episodes filtered through 1,000 opinions now found its way into the cold neon of a courtroom. No costumes, no retakes, only legal filings and the judge's face. Elizabeth walked in with documents in hand, allegations spelled out in black and white. If the cameras missed any moments, the paperwork didn't. Witnesses take the stand. Lawyers turn every decision into evidence, and the story switches from heartbreak to high stakes. The tension shifts from side-eye glances at birthday parties to signatures on forms that decide who owes what and why. Nobody expected the verdict to land so hard. When the judge sided with Elizabeth, the number was bigger than what almost anyone had guessed. $165,000, enough to freeze the smile on anyone's face. The court said it wasn't a misunderstanding or a routine messy breakup. It was a debt, clean as day. For Elizabeth, the decision felt like the only bit of control she'd had in months. Winning back that money was about more than the dollar amount. It meant the system still saw her pain, even when the world felt like it was watching for sport. Still, a public fight wins you little peace. While the internet raged, Elizabeth was left holding a judgment, not a happy ending. Her victory came with fresh wounds, both financial and personal. For Andrei, the fallout came just as quickly and way more public than he probably ever wanted. Word spread about the new wife in Australia like wildfire. Fans spun stories about secret girlfriends, rebound romance, and calculated escapes. Andrei's explanations came less frequent and less convincing. Every photo posted, every new update was fuel to a fire nobody could control anymore. He thought his life would be quieter or happier out of the fan spotlight. Instead, he found himself still center stage, now as the man who couldn't outrun either debts or drama. Elizabeth pulled out the receipts, literally. She sued, brought evidence, and then stood back while the world scrolled through every detail. People cheered her bravery only to turn around and wonder if the cash was ever the point, or just the last weapon in a war that ended long ago. For some, it echoed every late-night insult and whispered threat from earlier seasons. The kind of score settling you only see when pride, love, and family all get torn up at once. Through it all, the internet was relentless. Some said justice, some said revenge. Everyone kept watching, and nobody was left satisfied. Even with the final word from the court, there was no real closure. Elizabeth's family watched, her friends picked sides, and her inbox filled with strangers telling her how to feel. Andrei bristled under the weight of public blame, his every move picked apart for proof that he never belonged. Their daughter, too young to understand court orders or online gossip, became the face of collateral damage. How do you protect a child from fallout everyone keeps fueling? The wounds are public, the decisions can't be undone, and the drama spills into every quiet moment they try to reclaim. The scars show up in headlines, in depositions, in empty bedrooms, and in every shadow that falls after the show ends, but the consequences never do. What could possibly repair a story when every chapter is an argument, every memory is up for debate, and nothing about the pain stays hidden? In the days after every verdict and headline, the noise fades, but the emptiness never quite does. The cameras get packed up, the court records join a stack of other battered love stories, and yet somewhere in Florida another meal happens with an empty chair that nobody knows how to talk about yet. If there's one truth reality TV always forgets, it's that the aftershock lingers long after the closing credits and the social feeds move on to the next crisis. Elizabeth, the girl who once needed the comfort of family holiday dinners, now tries to create routine for her daughter, the kind that feels safe despite the echoes from every public fight that nobody can fully forget. Some wounds never close in front of an audience. For months, the circle around her thinned. Chuck's sudden death hit her like nothing else. Whatever mistakes he made, every awkward talk, every unsentimental business deal, every clash with Andrei, at least he was always there on the front line, trying to keep the peace. The loss pulled at all the seams left from the divorce, from the lawsuit, from every story spun on air and off. Gossip moved faster than the facts ever did. Some media outlets reported brain cancer, some hinted at secret health troubles. The internet made his passing a public event before the family even had time to grieve, spreading rumors faster than Elizabeth could find words to defend the dignity of the man who raised her. It was no longer about who was right or who was to blame. It was about remembering who you are when the noise of other people's judgments becomes the loudest thing in the house. The world outside watched, waiting for her to show cracks. Instead, Elizabeth took to Instagram, pushing back against the lies with a clarity she never managed in the chaos of her marriage. When she said her father's passing left a void, you could see she meant it, not for sympathy or attention, but because the pain was raw, close, inescapable. Support came in replies and DMs, but so did strangers' opinions, half-baked theories, and the kind of curiosity that never lets go. Every post, every public memory, was a risk and a reminder that healing under a spotlight takes more strength than most people will ever need. Most fans missed the details: surgeries, cancer, quiet days spent trying to rebuild. What they saw was only the top layer of loss, never the quiet mornings when absence presses in hardest. Grief opens up every weakness, and it doesn't ask for permission. The family unity she fought years to protect suddenly felt hollow. Support systems that once helped her stand now felt unstable, cracked by trial lawyers and tabloid rumors. But there was never time to unravel any of it. There's always another crisis, another round of misinformation, another court document to defend against or story to put right. Elizabeth and the daughter in the center of it all were each left to assemble a new understanding of family, one thread at a time, while critics online judged every move and every silence. When you lose your anchor, even anger feels heavy, almost pointless. Behind all the legal filings and Instagram posts, something quieter happens. New boundaries get drawn inside old wounds. Friends who picked sides start to drift away. The process is more erosion than explosion. Nobody wants to risk being caught in the next scandal. Nobody can decide if reaching out is solidarity or intrusion. Elizabeth's world contracts. She keeps her closest supporters nearby, trusting them to safeguard what's left of her story while she grieves. Her daughter becomes both her reason for strength and the most vivid reminder of all the things that can't be smoothed over or spun for ratings. The child is the one thing the cameras never fully captured, a quiet resonance tying together everything lost and everything that remains. Andrei, meanwhile, built his new life overseas, but his shadow stretched back into every conversation about what went wrong. He testified to wanting fresh beginnings, a chance to reset without the old drama. Some believed him, some didn't. The receipts from the last lawsuit trailed him, never fading from the search results or the fanbase's memory. He couldn't outrun the narrative, not when every post, every financial move, turned into the next chapter of the same story, sometimes about him, sometimes about what he cost everyone else. Fame still haunted him, a double-edged sword that paid bills but cost him every quiet certainty he ever hoped to reclaim. As the dust settled, one question lingered like humidity after a Florida storm. For a family who made a career out of being seen, what secrets still sat inside the rooms left unfilmed? The loyalty tests never ended. Was the real villain pride, circumstance, or sheer misunderstanding forced into high definition by a million viewers with their own unsolved home lives? If you think this story is out of gas, think again. Whispers from the Pothos clan hint, always off mic, always between the lines, about deals gone awry, about old debts, about things even the cameras never caught. The gossip never stops. Every viewer has a favorite culprit, a favorite line to quote, a favorite theory about who betrayed whom and why. And with Chuck gone, the old patriarch, the web holding everyone in orbit, the next bombshell feels inevitable. Who takes the lead now? Who decides what parts of the past get buried and what parts erupt at the next family reunion? Elizabeth's silence around parts of the story only sharpens the sense that something bigger sits under the surface. Maybe there's one secret left in the dark, waiting for the worst moment to come out. Maybe there's a pact of loyalty nobody's willing to break yet. Maybe the lesson here is how easily love modernizes into power struggles and legal threats when the stakes get big enough. Families grow out of conflict, not fairy tales. If you ever believed they were safe when the show ended, look again. Fans and critics, lawyers and distant cousins, all want resolution. Not every question gets its answer, though. Who owed who forgave, who backed down so the wounds wouldn't go even deeper? You start to wonder, was the first mistake falling in love, or refusing to let go after the trust unraveled? That's the kind of regret that sticks to your ribs, long after everyone forgot your side of the story. If you've been asking yourself whose side you'd take if the choice was yours, you're not alone. Are you Team Elizabeth, the daughter boxed in by love and family ties, the parent bent on breaking cycles for her own kid? Or do you find yourself sympathizing with Andrei, the outsider asked to prove himself 1,000 times, and then punished when things fell apart? Whichever loyalty you claim, remember, the story isn't done. These are lives that outlast any rerun. And if what you've heard so far feels like the end, look closer. Rumors whisper that the family's next chapter may shake up everything you thought you understood. The Pothos legacy might hold one last secret, one that changes how you see loyalty, betrayal, and who, in the end, is left still holding the camera. Stay close, because the next reveal promises to be the one nobody saw coming.